Hello everybody, Garage Healing here. We haven't seen each other in a while. I've been mostly working on university stuff and Dystopian Debugger. First things first, the playtest is almost ready, just a few things to polish and then it will be out. And meanwhile, we've actually done a closed playtest with 14 people from Twitter, and that was a real eye-opener in many ways. It's a known fact that you absolutely cannot judge the difficulty of the puzzles you made yourself, so getting feedback is crucial. I'm very grateful to everyone who participated. Among all the feedback, there was one really detailed review that was very honest in pointing out some problems. So, the playtester has found the game fundamentally tedious. They felt there was no break in puzzles, no indication of how successful your solution was, and little to no visual feedback. It felt like a chore. Long and difficult, as if you were working an actual job. Now that's a really nightmare scenario, isn't it? Well, the thing is, for the demo, I have actually planned things to remedy this. And now I was faced with a dilemma to ship the playtest as is, hoping that the players would just imagine how the full game would play, or to take some more time and finish these features. Of course, I took the second path. Before seeing that review, I didn't quite realize that I'm literally the only person who has a somewhat concrete vision of what this project will be. So while I know that the puzzles will be broken up by narrative parts, I know that when the timer system is ready, it will actually make days shorter. The player cannot know that. I made the mistake of thinking that these little things aren't important enough to grasp the gist of the game. However, all of them together actually dictate a lot how the game feels. Again, at first I thought that I only needed to test robo-puzzles, how hard, interesting and time-consuming they were. However, I had not taken into account the fact that the things around the puzzles were also very much affecting the player's enjoyment. So, to provide a holistic experience, I have introduced and/or finished these new mechanics. The timer system, as it will be in the full game, the difference index system, how much the program has changed compared to the original, the less the better, visualization for crash test dummies, all human statuses will now be reflected on the dummy model, flavor text for most job not done results, the narrative part for the first day, which can affect gameplay, an unlockable puzzle, the music player, and unlockable tapes for it. I don't know if these addressed all the problems stated in the review, but I know for sure that small things can sometimes solve seemingly integral problems. Now, another thing I haven't really talked about is the identity of the game. Now, I believe that games should be about something, and unlike my previous projects, the main thing in this game is going to be its gameplay, so the puzzles. And basically, the main decision I had to make is the decision between a Papers, Please-like game and a Shenzhen.io-like game. What do I mean by that? So, Papers, Please is not exactly a puzzle game. You have a number of tasks, which is limited by a timer, where each individual task basically does not have any value. You don't come up with a genius solution, all you do is literally compare words and numbers to other words and numbers. On its own, pretty boring, but the experience of doing a lot of these on a strict timer, the fear to make a mistake, and importantly, the balance between doing everything as diligently as possible or winging it and focusing on quantity, make up the identity of Papers, Please. This is one system. Another system comes from any Zachtronics game. Those games are indeed puzzle games where each individual task has a great value. You don't have as many separate tasks in these games, you don't have a timer, however, you have a huge variety of ways to complete the task. There are some limitations present, like tiny board spaces and a limit on lines of code in Shenzhen.io, for example. These two games also have varying goal complexity. While in Papers, Please you only need to give a simple true-false output based on an input, in Zachtronics games the output has to adhere to a much more complex rule set. Now, where does Dystopian Debugger come into this? I'd say the game falls on a specter between Papers, Please and a Zachtronics game. There's a soft time constraint and a choice between doing things cleanly, pursuing the smallest div index for example, or quickly, trying to complete as many puzzles as possible. And, well, at first I thought it would be more of a Papers, Please game, but A, where's the fun in that, and B, the system itself calls for more creative puzzles. So, despite my initial expectations, Dystopian Debugger seems to fall somewhere in between, not limited and menial enough to be a Papers, Please-like game, but not as open-ended as a Zachtronics game. This is also important since it helps me understand what the player base for such a game would be like. As I mentioned before, there's a small bit of story just so you can get a taste of what each day would be like. This will be all story you get in the playtest. As for the upcoming demo, after finishing the story beat, you'd be able to return to that place and go through encounters you haven't had the first time you came there. The other things I'm playing for the demo are 2 more days, more story for each day, new language for sex bots based on probabilities, more unlockables, and just general polishing of puzzles, sound design, and visuals. So the playtest will come out pretty soon. I don't have the exact date yet, we are still testing the thing. As for my general plans, if the playtest fails completely, if the game is actually boring to play, I'm afraid I'll actually have to ditch this project. That would be highly undesirable, of course. Now, if the playtest does relatively well, the next step would be releasing a free demo, and if that does well, I'll continue working on the full game. Now here, considering the scale and complexity of this project, I was thinking about few options. So the first one is early access. Now, I know for sure there's a sort of a stigma against that, so another option would be opening a Patreon or Boosty account and receiving support there. What do you think? Now, puzzle games is a new territory for me, not only in terms of game design, but also in terms of marketing. I've heard that puzzle games like this one are a not very popular choice for streamers, so I'll have to really research how other studios market their puzzle games. And on the same note, how did you come to know of your favorite puzzle game? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the public playtest and please wishlist Dystopian Debugger. This helps a lot. Shout out to all the people who helped testing, and huge thanks to Floppy for creating an insanely detailed video essay on Who's Lila. Please watch it, it's 7.5 hours long and the link is in the description. And another thank you to all the other creators who keep making fan art and other fan things and videos for Who's Lila and my other games. It really means a lot. So, see you around. Goodbye.